legend of one man who persuaded his friends to watch every Godzilla movie ever made. This world is on the brink of destruction. We need you now, Godzillvangelists. Godzillvangelists, a Geek Stew Network podcast, produced and hosted by Ryan Sargent, featuring Sam Schlenker and Joanna Brodecki. Godzilla has faced many challenges in his over 60 years of existing, but perhaps none so deadly as Godzilla versus the mediocre critical reception and Godzilla versus the limp box office. Can he rally? Can he survive? I think it's our duty as Godzillvangelists to decide if we can come to his aid, if we can help lift Godzilla up over the tide of misfortune that appears to be befalling him right now. And here, as always, to make this critical religious decision with me are my co-hosts, Sam and Joanna.
Hello.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't sure whether to go big or small in my entrance, and I kind of chose neither. I went really small. But yeah!
Yep.
Godzilla!
Oh, yep.
Yes, hello, that is me. Hi.
Today's episode is going to be a little bit different for obvious reasons. So for a while, we're going to avoid spoilers because this movie is very new. If you haven't gotten a chance to go out and see it, don't worry. We're going to name the moment where we're going into spoiler territory. But that won't be for a while. We're going to talk about some stuff. We're going to do our judgment right at the top here and give you a spoiler-free review before we start digging into that sweet radioactive flesh. But first of all, Joanna, you said that you've been catching up with the critical reception, and you have some thoughts on it.
Yeah. One of my favorites comes from the Times of India, which comes up quickly on Google when you search.
An essential periodical, to be sure.
Exactly. Despite the plot's blatant stupidity, the visuals showcasing the destruction were fine enough. I thought that was great.
Oh my god.
And then
Wow.
I highly recommend reading the Vulture review entirely, but I'll just read 2 sentences from it.
Okay.
The movie is visual noise. It makes the Battle of Winterfell look like a model of clarity, and punctuated by dialogue so clunky, I found myself wishing that Roland Emmerich, The Day After Tomorrow and 98 Godzilla, had been hired to make it better. This thing is an unholy mess. Look at that little tie-in. But yeah, I agree. That basically sums up my opinion.
Oh no. This is going to be a true battle of the Godzillvangelists today.
That was crazy
Ready,
that you tied in your own review into that just brutal review. That was oof.
That was the kind of blindside that you just don't expect. Well, as long as we're setting up sides here, I can't agree at all. I enjoyed it a lot, and I freely admit that part of it is day one excitement. I have this gut feeling that the second watch isn't going to be as pleasant, but I will defend this movie as being very unfairly savaged from a critical perspective. I totally understand where they're coming from. Don't worry, we'll find common ground. But I think that I just don't understand how it compares so negatively to even, say, your average Marvel movie. I don't think it's really that much worse in a lot of categories.
I agree with that point, and I am still trying to wrap my head around how I feel about it. So hopefully by the end of this podcast, I can give how I feel about it more clearly, I guess. But yeah, I agree. That's I guess what I would say, Ryan. I agree with that I have a lot of things I can criticize, but even then, I can't say that it is worse than Jurassic World or Doctor Strange. And those are critically beloved movies. Or, here I'll just say, I can't say that it's worse than Godzilla 2014 either.
Right.
Myself. And I slightly defended things about that. So I don't know. I can totally see someone coming in and giving it a negative review. I totally get it. But I also, that's where I'm lost, is where this is so much worse than these other movies I got problems with.
Yeah, let's pick apart those plot holes and talk about that acting and talk about the dialogue, and then we'll all come to an agreement.
Sam, you're going to be like our child in a brutal, messy divorce.
Mom,
here.
Dad, stop.
Be fighting over you.
I've never identified with Millie Bobby Brown so much. Dad, stop drinking. Mom, stop. It's a spoiler.
Stop being a terrorist.
Yeah, stop being a terrorist. Mom.
I don't think
not
that's
a spoiler.
really.
No, that's a premise.
Just like, what? Like, what? Where's the logic? All right.
Well, we'll get to that. We gotta be very careful here. We came pretty close there to spilling the beans, but here's our grading scale. If you've never listened to the show before, as Godzillvangelists, we have a holy duty to place these movies in their proper place in the afterlife. And while this is a very recent edition, there's no vintage on it. Judge it regardless we shall. So we can place it in Godzilla Heaven, Purgatory, or Hell based on where we feel it deserves to be for all eternity. Joanna, unleash the bombardment.
Right.
The spoiler-free bombardment.
Yeah. So it's no Rodan, but I cannot put it with the likes of the original and 98 and King Kong, So
that's your 3?
So it is going. Absolutely.
I can't put it with the likes of Citizen Kane or Plan 9 from Outer Space or...
Exactly. That was a baffling statement. And yet somehow I understand.
No, I totally get you.
You guys know I got, there are certain things that I really look for in a film. AKA some comedy. It still goes in hell. I don't... But the action, it looked cool. This was a chunky Godzilla, and I was grateful for that. But there was some really awesome looking moments in terms of that, but the plot just did not follow. We can get more into it, but I did not realize that this was going to be a larger arc over a few of these titles, and just doesn't hold any weight with me.
Okay, so the plot and the characters seem to have really ruined it for you, shall we say.
Yeah. But the monsters look fucking cool.
Right, you should go, because I gotta let the parents go first so I can choose. Like I'm on an ice bridge. Yeah. I'm on an ice bridge deciding which parent to go with,
All right, well, I'll try to coax you over to my side of the ice bridge. You definitely have a point. And it's harder for me to stake out why I'm not so bothered by it without getting into spoilers, but there absolutely are problems with characterization and plot. I would say characterization is far more the problem. I will happily defend the plot as just as good as any silly Marvel movie. It's no worse.
I guess I'm referring to the base line that they're all saying as the plot, not the little things between it. Just the base idea of it. But continue.
There's big problems with that. There's too many characters. They make decisions and say lines that feel strange, like they played line roulette and just randomly fired lines at characters to say because they hadn't said anything in a while. But I still felt like I felt for them more than in the 2014 Godzilla. There was a lot of shortcutting, but I thought that eventually we got to something that I cared about them enough to follow them. And I really loved how the human and monster stories were intertwined. I know I've said on the show a lot that that's something that's really interesting to me, is how they combine those two things and make them work together. And I thought that flowed together pretty well. On top of that, just in terms of having a compelling monster story, something that was really fun to watch, and you actually felt like the monsters had characters, way better than I thought a Hollywood movie would do with that. They did some weird stuff. They did things that tied it back into what the spirit of Godzilla is for me, and I was really happy about those things. So, for all those reasons and more that we'll get into, I'm going to put this in Godzilla heaven.
Oh, yes. Really putting the pressure on me, aren't we? All right.
Yep, there's no middle ground here. This is total polarity. Yeah, I freely admit, again, maybe the second or third time that I see this, I was like, maybe it's more of a purgatory thing. But today, I'm happy. I'm high on it. It's Godzilla heaven.
Now you're making me be like, is it purgatory?
See?
Well, so I'll rule out hell for me. I'm going to agree with everything both of you said, mostly. Although, what I would say is yeah, it felt like plot roulette, line roulette, and, there were too many characters, sure. Although, you almost, because none of the characters are all that interesting, you almost benefit from it being an ensemble. Like, you don't have to get into any of them, and nor do you want to, because, again, like, Aaron Tyler Johnson, they're all more interesting than him. Everyone is more entertaining than him. And he was the main character. This doesn't have a main character. And they're all at least, like, I get who they are. None of it's, like, particularly strong. Like, nobody's like, wow, what a great character. But, I mean, like, that's fine. Like, there were a lot of kind of like, oh, yeah, that was kind of a MacGuffin, or that was kind of, like, a little shaky. That moment was kind of shaky. But I can see what it was trying to do. It just, it was like the idea was right. It just wasn't executed at, like at the most wonderful level, but, or even at like a great level. But I don't know. There was nothing in it that like felt just horrendous to me. So I'll just say that. And I think the biggest positive for it to me is that it felt like it was a monster movie, and it felt like it was out to have fun. And and it was big and loud and dumb. And I didn't know I wanted that so much until I saw it and was like, that was big and loud and dumb. And I don't hate that. And for having seen now, however many, 10 or 11 of them that we've seen, or, however many. Yeah. It felt like one of those, and there are problems I have with those that I had are the same kind of things. I mean, honestly, I have problems with the main characters of all of the Godzilla movies almost, and where I'm like, yeah, they're not that interesting. They're less interesting than the monster fights, but that's how I felt about this, and so it's a legacy problem. It's, you know what I mean? It's like letting in a dumb kid from a dumb family into USC. It's like, yeah, you're just like the rest of them. You're still a USC student, Joanna. That's for you.
Hey.
So, that's very fitting.
Guys, I thought college was going to be all Socratic seminars. I was wrong.
You're in for a nasty awakening. Anyway, final judgment, Sam.
Oh, God. I'm going to say as a movie, it's certainly a purgatory movie. As a movie. But this isn't, am I putting it into movie purgatory? This is the Godzilla heaven, hell, and purgatory. And it's squeaking into Godzilla heaven for me.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I might do purgatory because I forget. I'm going into these now, putting my like critical goggles on, like let's see what happens with the plot. And when you're like, it's a big monster movie, like that is what it is. So if I brush off a little of my pretentiousness.
Well, but you know what? I will defend your right to say that, Joanna, because here's the thing. Here's my thing for the fans that have said, like, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter that the human story is terrible. Like, it's the perfect Godzilla movie if it was 2 hours of monsters fighting.
That's not true.
I guess, but then we're basically talking about something that's not a story. We're talking about a video game you can't play, and that's not at all interesting to watch as a movie or whatever that would be.
A video game you can't
Look,
play.
Mom, Dad, I've got you guys agreeing. You're finding common ground. We're all
know,
we're
here
all
we
a
are.
family again.
Yeah, we could finally
Because I-
go home and live together.
Well,
Not to go into a spoiler, because this is, like, it feels Marvel-esque very much at the beginning, but, like, there are some Marvel movies, some big superhero movies that do have successful character development and moments.
Sure.
Some of them
Definitely.
don't.
definitely.
No, there's definitely Marvel movies that are better than this. I just mean, on average, I do not understand why people will give so many Marvel movies like 70, 80, 90% positive reviews,
Right.
and this is so
Yeah.
low.
Or like a Star Wars film before it comes
Yeah.
out,
Yeah.
and then you see it and you're like, oh, it's not a 94. That's for
Yeah, this definitely like when we say like, oh yeah, it's the beats that are supposed to be there, but they're just kind of like not, they're kind of weak. Like, that's what I mean is, like, it's basically, it's better than Guardians of the Galaxy 2. It's like
Whoa.
like
I love that film.
yeah, 100%. And it's better. I didn't care for Jurassic World, and that's like what we're comparing is popcorn movies. Like, this is clearly made by a fan of these movies. Like Michael Dougherty is obviously into Godzilla, and it's all over it. And sure, it's kind of fan service, and some of it doesn't work, like in as a movie, but like it is made in love, it seems, and it's hard to be mad at that too. So like, I don't know, if you're a Godzilla fan, I would say why not go see this thing that is made for you, because it's doing so poorly. There may not be another one of these that's made for you anymore. Like, you think I'm kidding, but like,
It's doing fine abroad.
yeah,
It's doing
well,
okay
right.
abroad.
And that's also, I have issues with that. I feel like more
Yeah.
and more we're making movies not for here, and
Totally.
but
I see what you're saying. I mean, Kong vs. Godzilla, that's in the pipeline. That's coming out.
right.
But that's probably going to be the last one at this point.
Well,
if
and
it
they're
keeps up like this.
think about if this is getting so ravaged, and is doing poorly and critically and financially, someone's gonna say, well, we need to do another 2014. And so if you're someone who loves these movies and didn't care for 2014, go support this, because you're
Right.
paying with you're voting with your money. You're voting with your ticket stubs. So, this is
Yeah.
this is a different kind of thing, and if you like it, go see it, because that's what it is. What it is. I already said, it's big, loud, and dumb, and there's a lot of monster fighting, and it's not pretentious, which is why maybe I'm having a hard time with it. Like,
Lovely self-burn.
yeah, someone quote Immanuel Kant or something. Like, come on, what do you guys do? What is this punching?
I'm also going to make a big go for the 40-yard line here. Even if you aren't a Godzilla fan, if you listen to the show, if you're willing to get on board with the idea that this is fun entertainment that's not very smart, I would give it a try too. I feel like people are being warned away by the reviews, and some of them might not enjoy it, as I guess you didn't enjoy it so much, Joanna, but I think some people will, as long as they know what they're getting into. So it's not a death sentence if you aren't a Godzilla fan either. That's what I would say.
What is happening to me, guys? What have you done to me, Ryan?
I've worked my magic.
I'm defending a movie that has a 30-something% on Rotten
Ryan?
Tomatoes. This is...
Ryan told me that he sneaks into your apartment at night and just whispers Godzilla into your ear,
Oh, it's...
and that it's slowly changing
Does
your
that
opinion.
does that explain all the weird sex dreams I have about Godzilla?
Exactly. That's exactly
Ghost
right.
eyes.
This week, it's going exactly as I planned. When we did the 98 movie, Joanna was indignant that Godzilla didn't look like Godzilla. I'm happy with my good work so far.
Ah, yes. My pupils all over.
It's lovely. So, final warning. Here come the spoilers. If you want to see the movie without knowing what it's about, go see it. And here we go. Sound effects at the ready. Godzilla, King of the Monsters. 5 years after the events of the previous movie, Monarch is under intense pressure to kill the remaining giant monsters. Because I refuse to say titans, because that's a stupid term. Two of their scientists, Emma and Mark Russell, were formerly married and developing a device to communicate with the monsters, but split after their oldest child died in the Godzilla attack. Emma is... that was their little 8-year-old croaking.
Yeah, oh, sorry, yeah.
Sam thought they were gonna do a quick flash to his favorite 2014 character in that scene, and he got nervous.
Yeah.
Emma is present at the hatching of Mothra's egg in China with their youngest child, Madison, and uses the device, the Orca, to calm her. That's a great Orca impression. Shortly after the hatching, a group of eco-terrorists, led by Alan Jonah, take over the Monarch site and kidnap Emma and Madison.
Tyrion Lannister.
Yes, Tyrion Lannister, Charles Dance. Dr. Serizawa and pals pick up Mark and go on a mission to stop the terrorists. They eventually converge in Antarctica, where Emma is revealed to be in cahoots with Alan, and they free Ghidorah. After a battle with... After a battle with Godzilla, Ghidorah escapes, and so do the terrorists.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Emma reveals that the terrorists want to wipe the Earth's slate clean with the monsters and begin a new era of cooperation and sustainable living with them. Unfortunately, this proves impossible as Ghidorah is actually an invader monster and begin to command the others in a rampage. The U.S. Army uses an oxygen destroyer on Godzilla and Ghidorah. Thank you. They use it on Godzilla and Ghidorah while they're fighting, but apparently it only kills Godzilla. Madison steals the Orca and uses it to try and slow the monster rampage. Meanwhile, Serizawa and Mark find Godzilla in a mysterious underwater city, reviving himself at a nuclear fountain. Serizawa decides to sacrifice himself and set off a nuke to speed up the process.
The exact reversal of the original film.
Yep. Same name, different goals. The revived Godzilla teams with a transformed Mothra to fight Ghidorah and Rodan in Boston. Eventually, Godzilla wins.
Back to Boston.
Yes, back to Boston. Eventually, Godzilla wins at the cost of a guilty Emma and Mothra both sacrificing themselves. The other monsters bow down to Godzilla, and a strange era of monster-human coexistence begins.
Dun 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 dun. Come. End credits.
Great song. Let's dig into this movie, this big meaty delight.
He's whispering that into your ear.
Yeah, I kept hearing big meaty delight last night. Big meaty delight. Man, I need a BLT right now or something. Actually, that's not a lot of meat. Got a roast beef sandwich.
So, where shall we start? I'll admit to the audience we're a little off the books because
From the beginning.
because of the shortened time we had here. But anyway, beginning sounds good to me.
From the top.
From the top, what does happen at the beginning?
There's a flashback.
It's very
There's
marvelous.
a flashback to when what's her name? Vera Farmiga and what's his face? Their kid. They're like, he died, and then we cut to Vera, and then there's like a moment with Millie Bobby Brown, and they're in like a house, but then we reveal that it's like a house in like some kind of quarantine zone, like right next, or not quarantine zone, but like a Monarch base, right?
Yeah, secret.
They're
Monarch
definitely
base.
they're definitely laying off vibes like they're in SF and Kyle Chandler's somewhere in the woods taking a picture of wolves.
Yeah, that was
yeah.
interesting that he became a wolf photographer. That is funny. Like, I wasn't. That was not quite
He
clear.
did get some good pics of wolves, but it was just
so he was. But
yeah.
he developed the Monarch, initially, right? They like worked on it together, or not the Monarch. I'm sorry, the Orca.
Yeah, they co-developed it together.
yeah, the Orca.
The Orca.
As a college project for keeping whales from breaching on the shore. So
Right, but then he did that, and then they had a fight because he got alcoholic because his kid died. He got alcoholic. That's not right. And then he went off to become a wolf photographer. As
you
one
do.
does, right?
Right. That's just what a middle-aged man does to recover when his life's on the rocks. You become a wolf photographer.
I will say he looked great with that outdoor man tan.
He did. That could have been a great LL Bean ad right there.
It could have been. He's looking good for his age. I gotta say, I'm not a Kyle Chandler man partially because I'm trying to think of who he's like the B-level version of. Is he like the B-level Alec Baldwin?
I think he's the B-level.
Well,
Who plays Thanos?
Josh Brolin.
I think he's the B-level
see that.
Josh Brolin.
But he's also just such like that role from television. He's like a top TV man from 5 years. I mean, well, he's not Bryan Cranston. But,
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, I don't want to shoot an arrow through Kyle
He's
Chandler's
big among
heart.
the ladies, guys. He's huge among the ladies. All right.
He's a solid actor.
Yeah.
He's coach. All
And-
right. Clear eyes, full heart, can't lose.
I'm of the opinion he knows what movies he's in.
Most
in.
everyone
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's definitely like playing it wild-eyed, but like I think that's the right choice for that character is to
Is to what?
get him really invested in what's happening
Yeah,
immediately.
he's always like talking like this.
But really, you're right. You reminded me we do start out with Vera Farmiga and Millie Bobby Brown for a while, so they witnessed that.
Having the most awkward baseline dialogue scene that I've ever seen between a mother.
It was fine.
It was fine. It's super shortcutty.
It is.
Like the whole first 20 minutes of this movie is shortcut after shortcut. We don't get a single fully developed character moment, but that's kind of not what I was expecting.
I think I also just don't like this Vera lady in this role.
No.
I didn't get mom vibes. I was like, what mom role are you concerned? What is happening here? And then it made sense a little later on. Maybe that's what she was going for from the beginning. She's like distant and cold, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't play the surprise too early ever. So.
See, I asked this question right after I saw the movie to Sam and our friend of the show, Todd, and I'll ask you now. Is it sexist to say that Vera Farmiga appears to be playing a legitimately unstable person?
No, like Millie said it in the beginning. She probably should have been talking to someone about the death instead of just burying it away.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it appears to be an intentional choice.
It didn't feel like though that she was, and this is when I say like that they're not. It's all like the points are there, but it's not like super solid. Is like neither one particularly behaves like someone who's lost a kid necessarily. Like it's not so
Right.
strong.
Yeah.
It's like she's not behaving like her motivations aren't coming from we lost a child. I have nothing to lose now, and so I want to do this thing.
Right.
And the same with him. It's like he's not, he kind of has that where he's like very kind of like anti-Godzilla at first, but like that's the kind of stuff where it's like you're not wrong to have these two. The idea of having these two characters who are divorced and are kind of on opposite sides and lost a kid, but they respond differently is like a pretty solid foundation to a movie. And
Right.
thank God they actually have something to do with the monster plot. Can we just agree? Like that's
Right.
great. Like everyone who's a character in this movie at least can affect something, and that's actually
Right.
It shouldn't be an obvious it shouldn't be a strength that we have to point out, but it is because it's a real problem in the last one.
Compared to 2014. I think in terms of like I think she has a similar thing going just because of how the script is written with like what you could say for, Game of Thrones, Daenerys stuff of where like the lines say that they'll get there, but there's no real, it doesn't like quite, the points are like, yep, ... we made it, but it doesn't quite connect. So I don't know if it's mentally unstable or if it's more just like the lines are a little fishy to get her to that.
Yeah, her ultimate, I guess if we're not just going straight through, like her ultimate goal where it's revealed that she's actually trying to like save humanity by restarting everything was that was was maybe the weakest part of the movie for me, where I was like, oh, what? Like, that seems so far-fetched, you know, and there's a version of that could work. It's like the idea is not wrong, but the way to play it would be something where clearly she's in some way it's connected to having lost a kid, and she doesn't quite think that their plan is as much as Jonah thinks it is, and you know, like she's trying to achieve one thing by releasing these things. I don't know. And there's maybe even a version where she thinks that they're releasing these things so they can kill Godzilla because he's the only real threat, and then she realizes that actually that's wrong. I don't know what it is, you know, because she would have had some harboring some feelings toward Godzilla, but her trying to be an actual terrorist is weird to me.
It's weird, and then it's also like, it's like, how would she not, like, she would be aware of the fact that many people would die from this, and then she has that line when she's, like, Skyping them or whatever they're doing, where she's like, you better get to the bunker now, bitch, and, like, signs off, and, like, she knows that people are going to be hurt.
Or even if she didn't still have a daughter, like, if they lost their only kid, it would make a little more sense.
Yeah.
And she seems to have a close connection with the daughter. You know what I mean? It's not like she like can't have that emotional relationship anymore.
Right. Millie Bobby Brown is one of the many characters that seems excessive and not necessarily the right choice to be in the movie. It would make more sense if that was their only child. You're absolutely right.
Right.
Now, I will say, I think they were pretty close to having it make sense.
Yeah.
But if they hadn't dumped it all in like a big exposition dookie, like, I would have liked to see like a little visual storytelling moment where Mothra crawls out from the waterfall and there's like, I don't know, this desert or this like toxic waste dump, and just by being near it, it's coming back to life, and then you could sort of get the idea, as opposed to her telling you later like, it just happens that wherever they go, their radiation makes everything better.
Well, that's so.
And I think.
Go ahead.
You go first. Well, I was just gonna. I think that's like what I'll be hung up on for this whole series as a whole, because it's like her and Serizawa and you know, Sally Kate whatever that girl's name
Poor
is.
Sally Hawkins.
Sally Hawkins. They're all like, Godzilla is God, and like it works in the anime movie, but for this I'm like, no, but you guys are being crazy right now. What are you saying? And because maybe if they did have those scenes of Godzilla making things better, then that would help. Like, you truly do get the sense in the animated films that he can protect them from certain other things or whatever, but like,
yeah,
I don't know, in this one it just doesn't hold up.
And
it sounds bonkers.
That's another thing altogether, is that I could see having a problem with, but because I've seen these other ones, I don't feel the need to call out that radiation doesn't work that way, because there's an awful lot of just nuclear explosions that are, you know, happening all over the place, and you know that's its own thing. But another, you know, since we're just workshopping the script for them now after it's been made, it would even make a little more sense if she was an environmental scientist and he was the Godzilla, like he was kind of like the animal expert, and so they combined to make the orca, and so he kind of was the Godzilla guy, and she's an environmental one who basically has been doing some kind of research and seeing, oh my god, the Earth is gonna.
Like, she's crunchy as
well, we'll just say that the Earth is actually, like, we thought that our Earth was going to end in, you know, 6,000 years or whatever, but actually it could be like 55, you know, like, and then like that would at least make a little more sense, although it's hard to justify voluntarily killing a lot of people. That was still weird, but that's something. It's like, then it's a little better.
I think that wasn't as big of a reach as you would think, because I'm legitimately of the opinion that if we don't make major changes soon, hundreds of millions of people are going to die in the next 100 years to global warming. That's just what's going to happen. And so if you are on board with this, as she appears to be, maybe she's like, well, maybe I can actually reduce the death toll by like forcing people to make this change, this sudden change. It's not something I would agree with. It's not something I would do, but I can imagine a functional, smart person thinking that if they were an extremist.
Then maybe throw in like, it's worth the sacrifice of a few to save many, like a line like that. Because I was kind of getting Thanos vibes where I was like, are we just clearing out the world for the monsters to like play ball? And they're just gonna, you know what I mean? Those
right.
are gonna...
Yeah, I don't think that was the point. I think they were afraid of coming across as too preachy, but I think they should have just gone for it because it would have made it make more sense.
Right.
If they'd been like, we're all gonna die anyway, so we should just do it this way instead.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean it basically, I think the consensus on that is like, yeah, the idea was maybe right. It just wasn't executed as clearly or as eloquently as it could have been.
I was like, is that Thomas Middleditch trying to throw a few comedy points
Well,
into the
he
film?
only did until what's his face showed up.
Bradley Whitford.
Bradley Whitford. He basically it was
Oh,
clear they
yeah.
were like, and then we get Thomas Middleditch to be the comic relief, and then like they started shooting, and then someone was like, we can get Bradley Whitford. And then they're like, all right, Tom, you were being funny, but we got Bradley Whitford. So you gotta
Right.
cool it and be just a regular scientist.
Quit being so awkward funny. Can you just kind of stand there? Thank you so much.
But Sam, you're exactly right. That's another case where they should have been the same character. Bradley Whitford and Thomas Middleditch should have been one person. I don't think that would have hurt anything.
No, but
For what it's worth, I think they're both
good.
funny in
Yeah.
like a tongue-in-cheek kind of way.
Yeah, they're both good, and they deliver the like incredibly like on the nose dumb like silly lines like as well. I mean they're like A-level line deliverers. You know, it's not like they got the
Yeah.
right guys to do it. Actually, fun fact. In a little bit of research I did, apparently, God, what the fuck? We were just talking Bradley Whitford. Thank you, Bradley Whitford. Slightly like loosely based his character off of Rick from Rick and Morty.
Oh my
Did you guys know
gosh.
this?
I want to watch
It's
that
not the
show
best.
now.
It's the
immediately.
best.
I can see that.
That's funny.
He's so good at delivering those lines that he's the biggest
Yeah.
victim of line roulette. Like,
Yeah.
he says a lot of things that do not make sense for his character. but
I got the sense
he says them anyway.
I got the sense that those may have been improvised-ish. I think probably with both him and Middleditch, but mostly with him. I think that there was definitely like all right, now just do kind of a fun Bradley Whitford version of this, and see what we get out of it. It was a sense I kind of got from those.
And as long as we're talking about characters that should be combined, it just went a few too many characters over. Do a little combination.
Well, and that's while we're on that too, the ensemble situation. That was the other kind of thing I had a problem with. Was it did feel like once again Sally Hawkins had nothing to do, and so she clearly was like, guys, I want out of this movie. Unceremoniously kill me. Get me out of here. And she had as much of a I must go, my planet needs me as anyone, where it's just like, did she die? And then you just see you cut to a computer screen where it has her face and it says deceased. It's like she was written off a TV show in the mid 2000s or something. It's like, barely talked about again. And there were an awful lot. It's funny, Ryan, you've said this, that you have a problem with kind of like unnecessary suicides, unnecessary sacrificing yourself, and there were two of them in this, and neither one was like unearned, but to have both Vera Farmiga and Ken Watanabe was like a little much. It was like, neither one was.
And Mothra on top of that.
Oh yeah, it's a good point.
Ryan's like, please don't forget about my favorite.
Yeah,
Exactly.
which is like
She's a character too.
Sweet lady.
How could I forget the moth? Whose silking wasn't as gross this time. Can we just agree? Like,
Silking was kind of cool at the beginning when she was silking those people on the wall.
yeah, that's great. Like that's, it wasn't. Basically, what I'm saying is I didn't have to leave the theater because I was so disgusted by it.
As soon as Mothra silked somebody for the first time, I immediately turned to look at Sam. But unfortunately, he didn't have a reaction.
No, I was just kind of like, oh, all right, yeah, no, I'm over it.
Right.
Well, we'll come around to the Mothras in just a minute. I do want to talk a little bit more about the sacrifices.
Yes.
And if I was to award an MVP to one of the human characters, it would easily be Ken Watanabe, who is the king of making whatever dialogue feel like it has meaning. I liked him the most in the last movie. I liked him the most in this. And even though we know next to nothing about him, so we can't feel that much, I still felt a little something when he came out of the ship and, looked into Godzilla's eyes. That was a nice, well put together, touching moment.
It just relates back to that first film, too. I think, though, too, when he says that the monster is God thing, I, believe him more. I'm like, I don't know what he knows, but I believe him a little more than all these other crazy folks out here.
That was one where his actual sacrifice was fine. The part that felt like it could have used a little something was that they take the sub in there, and then they're like, he's like, they're like, all right, they do some other stuff, and then they go, okay, we got to go, now nuke him, and then someone randomly walks over and is like, actually, we can't do that. Something malfunctioned. And then it's like, no, you guys, you can set that up a little better. Then it was just kind of like, oh, well, all right, I guess malfunction, got to sacrifice. That's the execution of the, whatever was the launching mechanism or whatever malfunctioning was. That's the part that actually was kind of weak.
Totally agree.
His sacrifice was fine. The other weird thing, actually maybe the other thing I most strongly reacted to as being very strange was that apparently they lived right next to Fenway Park. Their childhood home. That was bizarre. I was like, when she wait, say that again. I can see why she ran away from home, and then just cut to right next door to just the wasteland that is Fenway Park is a mantle with a photo. Oh man.
Oh my god, one of the reviewers was like, I can't believe they were in Fenway Park all that fucking time and no one made a big green monster giant. Not a single person.
Yeah, that's a good point.
From an objective perspective, there are things about this movie that were worse, but in terms of they wrote it for morons, that was the thing that subjectively bothered me the most. Is there were so many lines that explained a thing that we saw, and I'm like, thank you, I got that,
right?
Because I was watching.
What did you?
I think they expect 6-year-olds to go and watch this, and that's why they do this. But even 6-year-olds should get most of the things they explain.
But that was actually another takeaway I had, which was, speaking of kids seeing this was a very violent PG-13.
It was scary.
I was kind of in for that. It was loud and just destruction everywhere, and not even
cross burning.
Yeah,
scene.
It was rad. I had a good time.
That
Carnage level was appropriately high.
There was a part which I actually liked because it reminded me of the first, but I was like, I think this is not in the right movie. This seems too dark. When Rodan was first flying around, there was a man holding onto a pole, holding onto a child, being blown away.
Just like in the old movies.
Show 7 other people blown away. That was great. That was way darker than the rest of the
That
stuff.
was one. There were 3 moments that were just delightful to me, and it was that. It was the pilot ejecting into Rodan's mouth, and it was the guys running out of the aircraft and then immediately getting like lightning to death. The first 2 guys to run out by Ghidorah. That's great. A+.
I thought the helicopter crashing into the thing was cool too.
Yeah,
I mean, this is cool.
Here's the thing. Let's start talking about the fun stuff, because in terms of the action and the monster fights, they did really spectacularly, I have to say.
They really did. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Michael Dougherty is a good director. Have you ever seen Trick or Treat, Joanna?
No, I never have heard of it.
Okay, it's a horror anthology he did. That's just a lot of fun. Clever and well put together, and he clearly loves the movies.
Is it scary?
That's its biggest strength. It is scary.
It is, but it's the kind of horror that I really like, which is it's just big and fun and ridiculous. It's kind of it's a fun time horror where you things just go nuts and there's a lot of supernatural weirdness, but it doesn't take itself seriously. And I kind of, that was actually encouraging, because I watched it as research for this. Because I was just curious. I hadn't seen that or Krampus, and I watched Trick or Treat and was like, oh yeah, okay, this it's a guy who it's in the name of fun, and it's pretty well done. This, obviously the budget on this is 60 times more or something, but I
really like him, and the monsters look pretty great. I was worried Ghidorah was going to be a little too Drogon-like based on the trailers, but once I
no,
got
no,
some
no.
good looks at him, no, he's classic Ghidorah. He's gold and shiny, and he has his kind of laughing roar. There's a little bit of a lilt.
There is so much like fan service, going back to the original stuff. I mean, every single choice that is made in this movie, it seems, is how can we make this more like the originals?
Well, I am if nothing but a greedy man, so we'll come around to the one thing that I was like, you should have gone all the way.
He wanted the twins.
I wanted the little fairies.
Well, but they did it.
Why did?
Yeah,
Called
no,
it.
you did, but
Do
they
it.
but they did like you're right. They didn't go all the way on it, but they hinted at it because we find out that what's her name on the.
Yeah, we forgot to talk about her.
It's because she's another character who barely does anything. That's the reason. But what is her name?
They're Dr. Eileen and Ling Chen.
Yes, Dr. Chen. They basically. She's on the ship, and then you find her, with the Monarch team, and then we find out that she has a twin. And there's that kind of like moment of all those photos of, their family, the Chen family, I guess, going back and being Mothra associated. So even that, they got the twins in there. They just didn't make them 1 foot tall because they're not perverts, Ryan.
Yeah.
Why is that perverted?
You guys, when she opened that box first for the orca thing, when she first opened it, I was like, oh, damn, she's got the twins on her. I was very excited. I was like ready to have some tiny human singing some songs. I didn't know how Kyle Chandler was going to react to that. But
Yeah, unfortunately, Hollywood executives are too boring to ever greenlight that. But I kind of wanted it because he already got so far. But as a fan, I'm very happy. Loved how they incorporated the classic music. I mentioned even last time that it feels so important to these movies. It's like a Star Wars movie without the Star Wars themes. And it just made me feel so good and so connected to my childhood love of these movies to hear those classic themes incorporated. And I feel really happy about the music overall, actually.
Yeah,
I loved that moment when the head was growing back.
That is, if we're talking about great moments, the Godzilla nuclear explosion, the ending basically, and then the reveal where you see Ghidorah's head pop up, and then you discover that it's Ghidorah's head in Godzilla's mouth. That's so great. That's like that is really, that's funny. There were a few moments like that in the 2014 just visual action moments that I really liked, and that was this movie's version of that, where it was just like, yes, great. You guys, what a moment. That's independent of anything else, that was really fun.
I mean, you talked about a lot of them already. That when the pilot ejects directly into Rodan's mouth, there's a lot of really just moments where you want to go, yeah.
That's.
Just want to go, yeah.
They're just fun little inventive, little inventive moments. The tie-in to the previous movies that I had a problem with, and again more in execution than in theory, was I felt the oxygen destroyer was a little odd.
That was the one fan service thing that I was like, too far. It's like it feels poorly placed.
Oxygen destroyer is a silly concept. The oxygen destroyer is like a weapon that was conceived of in the 50s. Even the name of it is silly, and it's used basically as they might as well have just called it Godzilla Death MacGuffin Bomb, and nuclear is Godzilla Life MacGuffin Bomb. Because you're just blowing them up with a death bomb and a life bomb, and that's it was a little. It was just like, oh yeah, all right, fine. I can see where if you didn't have a concept of the oxygen destroyer from the 50s movie and you were a critic watching that, you'd just be like, what the fuck? That was very much of a stretch to me.
Yeah, it felt a lot like it had been quickly placed in the last draft to make the studio happy. They wanted a different reason to take Godzilla out of action than whatever was in the first draft, and so they're like, what about this? What if the military dropped a special bomb on him? And Michael Dougherty was like, I guess if I can make it the oxygen destroyer. But it just you're right, it's a naked MacGuffin introduced by Admiral Turkey Neck.
He's back.
I don't like it. He's back.
And it made no sense that, I don't know. the military, they're all like, "What's going on? You don't tell us anything. We need to know. We need to be the ones." And then they're like, "Oh, they've actually been creating this big weapon to help."
Well, even if that was established,
Yeah.
I mean, not that I want more like plot, because there are a lot of marbles rolling around in this movie of like plots and pieces that are these forces versus these forces. So you don't want more to be paying attention to the military developing this bomb.
No,
but if the military was developing some kind of anti-Godzilla bomb, that they found something about him because he's powered by nuclear stuff, so this wouldn't be a nuclear weapon, it would be something else. They would make a little more sense. But just to be like, we have an oxygen destroyer, whatever that means, here you go, he's dead. It's like, whoa, guys, you've been taking your sweet time on everything else.
that was effective. Yeah, seriously. Also, I loved the moment when stupid Kyle Chandler's like, "Let him know we're not a threat. Let me open the thing." They're like, "What's this Blu-ray?"
Well, there are two.
And then
That was great.
Ghost
That reminded me of King Kong versus Godzilla when he first shows up, which is the moment that changed my entire life. So I was happy about that.
But I loved Then It Went Dark, and then he just shows up right.
Yeah.
Like, that reminded me of Deep Blue Sea when they're just like looking outside, and then suddenly that poor dying man who's attached to the helicopter comes and cracks on the
Oh,
glass,
yeah.
and then the sharks come.
Like that.
Great.
That was because there are two moments of him like letting Godzilla know he's not a threat. Because there's the one on the submarine later, after they revive him,
Right.
and it's like that too is like not a horrible idea. It's not a bad point to have, but it's got to have a little more to it, because it's almost like if when he's an animal expert, when he's being a wolf photographer, if there's something about hey, the way you relate to animals is you need to basically prove that you're not a threat. Like set that up. And so then there's the moment in the submarine where he kind of like looks at Godzilla and does something, and then later on after they revive him, it's like it has a new meaning because it's like he actually is helping. They're on a team now. That it's like that would be a little better, but again, it just kind of felt like two moments of the same thing of him just looking at Godzilla and then Godzilla goes the other way.
But the second time had that music, that little
Yeah.
soft dun dun dun. It hit me like a mwah, like a perfect kiss.
Ryan cried.
I did cry when Mothra came out of the cocoon. A little bit. A little tiny.
Oof, yikes.
Asshole.
That was a weird.
All the fans, all the listeners are like, "Yeah, Ryan, let him have it. Fuck that guy."
Come at me, nerds. I'm on your side on this, guys. I defended it.
Yeah, he's
Go
with
after
us.
Joanna.
He's with us. He's with us.
There's some definite scary tribalism going on.
Some of the other monsters were a little like the just like the woolly mammoth. It's like they were a little like what? All right, yeah, sure. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
But like they looked fine. My only thought was that there were a couple times where they anthropomorphized Godzilla a little too much at the end. I felt like there were a couple like close-ups of him where he gave like a real like John Goodman-y look of just like, oh guys, I'm with you, humanity. And it's like it's more interesting.
I don't believe.
Yeah, it's more interesting to me if he is legitimately a monster that could and may kill everyone, and because we can't really relate to him.
I like that we can relate to him. I'm going to fight you on this
Ryan
one.
will always relate to him.
I felt like that was a critical moment, actually. But I suppose we're splitting hairs. It wasn't actually that important to how the movie functioned.
No, and it was
in the end.
That was just my only note on how he looked.
I wanted to ask you, Joanna, did you get excited to see little glimpses of King Kong walking around on the TV
Oh my
screens
gosh!
and
Yeah,
stuff?
yeah. That tired old grandpa's coming back.
Yeah, I'm curious at how they were going to make that work, and I was hoping that the post-credit scene would talk about that. But instead, they were just like, Ghidorah could be cloned, or something like that.
Yeah.
All right. We come to the end of another show. But before we do, I'd like to know if you guys were going to invent your own wacky monster, or bring back an old one even, to kneel before Godzilla at the end of this movie, what would it be?
I want to. Grizzly bears are my favorite animal. I just really would want to see a big grizzly bear with claws that are like 8 feet long, and then he has lasers that shoot out of his eyes because he's also got to have some kind of fantastical element, you know.
For me, I'd like to see a callback with Dr. Taco has spent too much time around the monsters, and now he himself has become a mutant.
Ooh, that's good.
That's good.
And his mustache is like has what do you call it when he has a prehensile mustache that he can use to pick people up and through.
Who would you guys dreamcast as Dr. Taco?
I mean, that actor from Shoplifters is hilarious.
I haven't seen Shoplifters.
Everyone this week watch Shoplifters in Chernobyl.
Okay. I think for me, this is a stereotypical pick, but I'm trying not to search on IMDb for 20 minutes. Ken Jeong.
Yep.
He's a funny guy. He could do a funny Dr. Taco very well. With Kong vs. Godzilla coming out, you still got time to get Dr. Taco in.
It's true.
It's not too late, guys. But what about you, Sam?
For which one?
For giant monster kneeling before Godzilla.
I think if we're just doing Monsterverse, that is apparently 19 monsters, I think I want to see some Ray Harryhausen monsters that are in stop motion.
Okay.
I want the like many-armed like goddess statue from the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad to show up.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like let's.
Well, actually, it's from the Golden Voyage.
Was it the Golden? Well, shows what I know.
I love those movies.
I want Mike from Monsters Inc. to show up and just be a little confused,
That'd be
in
fucking
which
hysterical.
movie he's in.
He just comes out of the door. It's like,
who
guys,
that guy's voice?
It's too bad that we're.
Billy Crystal.
It's too bad we're not doing the like dark, gritty versions of like fairy tales and children's books, because they could do like a one-off Dark Clifford, since we've already agreed Clifford the Big Red Dog is a kaiju.
That's
Dark
true.
Clifford, and then which like, yeah, I mean that's not that crazy of an idea, because they did so many dark Snow Whites, like sexy Clifford.
So many dark Snow Whites.
Yeah, Hellhound Clifford. That's his origin. That's why he's red. He's a tamed hellhound. It's perfect. So there you go. Clifford, Dr. Taco, and Big Bear. I'm all about it.
One final thing. I know we kind of said it, but yeah, I think it's just in watching Chernobyl right now and seeing these makeup effects of nuclear radiation in ways that I have not seen on screen before, the slow demise, etc. Like, really, everyone's fine. No, not a single person in these films has been affected by nuclear.
Not since the original.
Right.
Which, I guess I didn't bring it up because I brought it up with the last movie.
I was just
it's the same problem.
I was thinking about that as I was what you brought up last time.
Yeah, it's the same problem continued, which I do not like, which is infantilization of nuclear weapons and nuclear radiation. But at least this time it took itself so non-seriously that I was not as bothered by it.
Right. That makes sense.
And with that, we come to the end of another episode. So once again, I implore you all. We're really trying to expand the audience, get more people listening. So share us with your friends. Review us on Apple Podcasts, even though it's a shit show, please. Subscribe to our social media and our YouTube. Share everything, and we would greatly appreciate it. We're all part of this grand mission to help Godzilla stay afloat in these troubled times. So we really need your help.
It'll just be an archive of the past.
This movie is not doing well, so, or at least here. So if you don't do anything, we're gonna get a real pretentious, like, serious Godzilla next, like art house. Like, they're gonna take fucking Sam Mendes off the Bond movies to do a really shitty Godzilla. Like, you're gonna get the specter of Godzillas. So do you want that? And the answer is no. So listen to our podcast and share it. Come on, what are you guys doing? Do you want Spectre? I have some real thoughts about this.
Listen to the man. Sam put this movie in heaven, god damn it.
Yeah, I did this for you. For all of us. Did I want to? No. I betrayed everything I know about good movies.
But he paid his ticket on opening weekend.
I did. I saw it in the dome with a Godzilla head sticking out of the Cinerama Dome.
Oh, that's
It was
cool.
pretty cool.
Oh,
Yeah,
I miss
it was really
Arclight.
cool. Look at our Instagram. There's a really cool picture we took.
There is.
Oh, that display. And you know, as they were saying, we do this all for you. So let's come together, and even in these troubled times, find love for Godzilla. And until next time, where we'll be back with Godzilla 98, a really fun episode.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one you guys are going to hear next. It's super fun. It's a great time. So tune in for that, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Godzillvangelists, a Geek Stew Network podcast, is brought to you by me, Ryan Sargent, and my friends, Joanna Brodecki and Sam Schlenker. All our incredible music is composed by Robert Mai, and our wonderful artwork is drawn by Cassidy Stone. Special thanks to our families, friends, and the wonderful artists who made the movies we talked about today. Godzillvangelists is a satirical, critical work, not affiliated or endorsed by Toho, Legendary Pictures, or anyone behind the Godzilla series. Visit our website at GodzillaVangelists.com. We're also on Twitter at GodzillaCast and Instagram at GodzillaVangelists. If you prefer to listen to us online, we have a YouTube channel. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you join us next episode. In the meantime, keep spreading the word of Godzilla.